Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus of tips and tricks or how to look good. Now I forgot the name. Tips and tricks or how to look good naked and why you should love yourself even if you don't. I'm Joe Tierney. I'm here with Amber Riley. Hi, Amber. What's been going on?
Not much. Sorry about our delay, guys, but we're back. I apologize.
Yeah, we got distracted. So great. So what are we doing today? I tell everybody about, we wanted to do the grocery store roundup, the walkthrough, and we ran into some controversy. So why don't we start with that?
So I went to the store today, and I live by any mom and pop grocery stores. All of the ones around me are big local chains like Meijer and Kroger and Walmart. So I'm recording and I watched them after I got done recording to see if there was anything that I could splice together. So in the middle of me recording, by the way, I turned my phone. Okay. So apparently the camera doesn't turn with the phone anyways. So there was nothing that I could really splice together. But what happened is apparently you have to get permission through corporate if you're going to film anything. I explained, that this was not like a major broadcast. This was like a very small. And she's like, no, I'm like, so even if I came in here and did it live, like, she's like, absolutely, you have to go through corporate. So that's not going to happen. But I got an idea of things that I can point out to you guys when I was doing it today. I apologize. I actually got like 8 minutes, 2 different videos totaling 8 minutes. But like I said, I turned my phone, so it was all bad.
That's funny. That's all right. All right, so then we're just gonna have to talk about it. So I know that we talked about what are the best strategies in the grocery store. So we could talk about that. Start off by doing that. Certainly we know that we want to go around the perimeter of the store. That's really most of the healthy foods are, but all stores I think are laid out a little bit differently. Our produce is always on the right, meats in the back, and the dairy's on the left. But take it away. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's not just your fresh. It is your fresh, but it's your foods that are the closest to the source of where they came from is on the outside. So the more that you get involved in the shelves, you're getting a combination of multiple ingredients and the processing, which is what we're trying to stay away from. So when you first walk in, you're going to see your fruits and your vegetables. The key with fruits and vegetables is you want to eat the rainbow. You want to eat as many colors as possible. The more robust and bold the color, generally, this is not a rule of thumb, but generally, the more healthy it is for you, the more antioxidants or vitamins and so forth that it's going to include. So, and I'm just trying to go through the video that I did in my head as far as the layout. So next you come to your meats. When you're talking about meats, you have to consider that your red meats already have a lot of fat in them. So when you're looking at meat, when you're looking at raw meat, it's very easy to see what meats you should eat. So you want to eat the meats that don't have a lot of that marbling throughout it. It's not so much about the marbling white on the out because you can always cut that off, although many people don't. They eat it, but you don't want the meat that has a lot of marbling throughout it. So typically it's your center cuts, your fillets that look better as far as not your ribeyes and all that white meat throughout it. I typically stick to turkey and chicken, your white meats. The video that we have, I apologize about that. The video that we have is about pork, which is, considered the other white meat. And I just strongly advise against eating pork. It's not because of its fat content or lack thereof that I sway against it. So let's play the video and then I'll explain it.
Okay. All right. And can you see it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Can't hear it though.
Can you hear it now, Amber, or no?
So since we can't hear it, I'll explain what's happening. Let's fast forward through it. So what she's doing, that's a raw piece of pork right there. Go ahead and play it. And she's just putting Pepsi, just a regular Pepsi on it. And as you can watch, you're going to start to see little white things float up. So fast forward a little bit further to when they really start coming up. And basically the reason for this is the acidity. Do you see all those little white specks? Hold on, they'll zoom back in. Pork is a how do I want to? It's not a fatty substance, but pigs don't have sweat glands, so they can't release anything, and they eat everything. So it's filled with just parasites. So you want to stay away from pork. It doesn't matter if you cook it. It's just you want to stay away from it. You'll see some big ones come up here shortly. And it's just the acidity in the Pepsi. Fast forward a little bit more. Let's see if we can see some more. You see that over there?
That's unbelievable. Is that the pork's the only meat, Amber?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it's not a fatty meat so much. Oh, wait a minute. I think this is when it gets good when she pours some fresh in there. It's not so much that it's a fatty meat. It's that it, like I said, they don't have sweat glands, so they can't. Oh, you see them?
Yeah.
And that's not a piece of meat that's been sitting out or anything like that. It's
Oh my God.
So that's why I advise against pork. Yeah,
Oh my
it's
God.
disgusting. So when it comes to meat, like I said, stick with your white meats that is not pork, your chicken, your turkey. If you are a hamburger, I promise you, if it comes to like if you're cooking for a family or if you're cooking for people that are really big meat eaters, like red meat eaters, ground meat, when it comes to ground burger meat, if you switch out turkey and throw the package away, I promise you, 9 times out of 10, that person is not going to even know. It really is a mental, psychological thing for a lot of people to make that switch over to turkey. It eating turkey is no different than eating good, other healthy food. It's all about how you prepare it and your seasoning. So it's not that red meat is bad. It's just that it does have a higher fat content. So if you're trying to trim down, you want to, minimize that. And then obviously minimize the amount of marbling around it. Your frozen foods, frozen vegetables and fruits are fine because they are flash frozen at the site of wherever they're picked at. Same with frozen meats, unless they are processed, by which I mean breaded, which is a lot of frozen chickens and stuff like that are breaded. So like your frozen fish, stuff like that is going to be fine. Most of your frozen vegetables and fruits are going to be fine as well. Other than that, throughout your frozen is going to be your pre-packaged meals. So that's just full of a lot of processed, a lot of the stuff you want to stay away from.
What about frozen meats, Amber? I mean, are they fine? Like now they have the frozen chicken breasts, for instance. I mean,
as long as it's not breaded with no skin on it. That's another thing. You don't want the skin on chicken. That's just like a whole waste of fat and calories and a ridiculous heart attack. Typically, yes. Like I said, unless it's breaded, then yes, you're frozen. So the bigger packs so that you can, conserve. Absolutely. Or, that way you don't have to cook a whole family pack of chicken or whatever. You can take one out if you're by yourself. Absolutely. Yes.
All right, great.
When it comes to dairy, it's a little tricky. So milk, there's not a lot, there's no good fat in milk. Okay, there's no. So if you're gonna drink regular milk, then you are better to stick with the skim. I would recommend upgrading, even if you're in a regular grocery store and you're not going to Whole Foods or like a really good health store. So you can upgrade to something like almond milk. There's controversy over soy out there, but I know that when I first switched off of regular milk, that's what I switched to was soy milk, and I loved it. It didn't have, it had a much thicker texture than what like skim milk would have. Like I said, there's big controversy over the health benefits or the detriment of soy. So I would go with the almond milk unless you're just a real big cow's milk. Stick with the skim milk. When it comes to cheeses, this is a difficult one because you do want the fat in the cheeses and stuff. That's good. Although it is dairy, it's a different sense. But all the cheeses you're going to get at a regular grocery store are processed cheeses. So like those Kraft singles, that's not really cheese. That's really just processed. You know what I'm saying? It's not really cheese. So that's a little bit more difficult if you're not going to go to a health store. Again, with the milk though, definitely stick to the skim. Also in the front of the store, instead of going with your dips and like your ranch dips in the front, usually with the vegetables, is where you're going to find your healthier appetizers. So like your guacamole dip, your salsa, your hummus, other things that you can dip things in that is not going to just be empty calories. The drink aisle is what I'm visualizing next. My rule of thumb when it comes to liquid calories is unless there is protein in it, there should not be any calories. If there's calories, then there better be protein. Typically, liquid calories are not protein. They are carbohydrates, sugar. So the drink aisle, you're pretty much going to stay away from. Oh, the bread. That's what I wanted, a big one with bread. I was actually rather shocked because usually I remember it being very difficult to find bread before, but a lot of the breads that boasted whole grains, many of them, your name brands ones, I actually found they were whole grains. So when I say whole wheat, like when it says 100% whole wheat, if the first ingredient on the label says enriched wheat flour, then that's the same as white flour. It's not wheat flour at all. It's just white flour. So many of the breads that boast that it's wheat or whole wheat or whole grain, they're not really. It's just enriched. It's just wheat. What you have to worry about, what you struggle with, is the sugar that is usually added to the bread. So on even most of the ones that were whole grain or whole wheat flour that they use, the third ingredient was typically sugar. So it's difficult. The bread that I buy, it's made with cane sugar, which is a raw form of sugar, but it's also made you find it at the end on the end caps. That's where you're going to find a lot of your healthier stuff, like your nuts and stuff too. It's made with all of your organic wheat flour and your organic ingredients.
I opt for now the sprouted bread. I like the Ezekiel bread.
I do like that. It's just that this grocery store that I'm visualizing doesn't actually carry Ezekiel. You know what I'm saying? You have to go to you have to go to a little bit, because I'm thinking of a large chain store. So it doesn't have, I have looked high and low for that bread. So this one bread that I buy is like the closest thing I can get. There is another bread that you can't get at a store. You can make it, but it's called and you can look up the recipe. I think it's called Cloud9 bread.
Yeah, cloud bread. I've tried it. I don't love it. It's made out of cottage cheese and egg. I'm not a big fan. I find though sometimes the big stores or have the Ezekiel bread, but it's in the freezer.
Oh, really?
That's where they keep it. They have a couple of different varieties. They have Dave's, there's the sprouted bread, and oftentimes the Ezekiel. So
Dave's
check
is
them
what I
out.
use. Dave's buns is what I use for my turkey burgers. In the
Yeah,
so
check.
what by what?
Well, you know where they have like garlic bread and things like
Oh
that? It's
yeah.
usually in there. So
Oh
check
my
next time. That's
gosh. It didn't
oftentimes
even
where I find it because I think they freeze it because they can't move it in
it's
volume.
not, yeah, it's not gonna stay fresh. Yeah.
So
Wow,
all right,
I love
this
you for that.
so this is making my night. Speaking of love, hey, there's Randy. Randy, we've missed you.
Hey.
He can't come on tonight, but I'm glad to see he's watching. We're talking about the grocery store, Randy, and where to go in the aisles to find the foods that you like. So we're thrilled to see you here. Um, so let's see. I mean, Randy, we recapped. Obviously, Amber. You had to watch the beginning of it. Amber was speaking about the meats and the food. You just missed a horrific video, so I'll send you the link later so you don't miss it.
What I want to top on before we get any further is that what you have to remember when you walk into a grocery store is that the reason why you're wanting the foods that are the closest to the source, okay, as possible, so closest to the tree, whatever, is because everything in a grocery store is marketing. Okay, it is all very uh billions of dollars spent on marketing. So for example, I think I've mentioned before the whole fat-free craze. So you can look through if they're all companies are still wanting to crave either fat-free or low fat or stuff. So if you look in the ingredients and you see high fructose corn syrup or partially hydrogenated oils, even if it says 0 fat, you know that it's got fat in it just because of those two ingredients. But there's little loopholes, such as the FDA says if it's less than 0.5 grams of trans fat, they can say 0 fat. So there's little loopholes. So it's marketing throughout. So for example, eggs, the humane way that we consider is cage free, but in reality, chickens don't really roam. So just because they say cage free doesn't necessarily mean that they're really roaming free. Doesn't mean there's not 500 of them in a dark, you know what I'm saying? So it's all marketing. It's you have to remember that. Once you get into the shelves and you get into foods that have many ingredients, that is when you run into the risk of that is when you run into the risk of the ingredients you can't pronounce. If you can't pronounce it, then you shouldn't be putting it in your body.
So Randy's asking, what about pasta and noodles?
That's a difficult one. Hold on one second. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Noodles and pasta. There is a vegetable made noodle, so you have to look. You can get the wheat noodles. I will tell you that they how do I explain it? They whenever you add sauce to wheat noodles, it makes it runnier. Does that make sense? Like there's more moisture to it. But you can buy the vegetable noodles. They're a little bit more expensive, but you're paying for quality basically. But noodles it's a hard one. Unless you're going to take the time to pre-make them yourself with the healthy ingredients, which I wouldn't recommend. Noodles is a difficult one. I know there's recipes for lasagna and stuff that they use zucchini. So you can use zucchini in them. You can use cauliflower in a lot of ingredients. I again am not one that have experimented with trying to make it. I just tend to like deny myself if it's just unhealthy rather than taking the time to like this elaborate to try to make it taste it. I'll do quick fixes, but like going full out for like a pasta dish to entirely make that healthy, I tend not to do that because I cook for one. If I had a family, it might be different.
So I've tried the zucchini noodles that are in the vegetable aisle, and I've actually made them as well. I do have a spiraler that will make the noodles. And if you like vegetables, it's passable. I mean, it doesn't taste like a dry noodle, but I'm not a huge pasta fan. I do like the wheat noodles occasionally. But I think you should try that, Randy. Try the zucchini noodles. They're already spiraled in the case by the vegetables, and it's definitely more filling to me than regular pasta, and with the sauce on, it's spiraled as if it's spaghetti, and you just try it. It's a different taste, but it's a very similar in texture, and I think you might like it, or you might be willing to, or at least you won't have it just you won't dislike it enough not to give it a shot. And I usually just put it in a pan with a little bit of olive oil. I'm not a huge tomato sauce person, but I'll chop up some grape tomatoes and put them in there, slice them, and I'll throw some mushrooms in and a little bit of olive oil. And I think it's a great meal. I've
I
put
need to
tomato
try
sauce on
that.
it before too. So yeah, give it a shot.
So is the texture what's different?
Well, it's made out of zucchini, so it's fresh. It's not dry pasta. It's just actually zucchini that's fresh. And it's the texture is just a little bit. Depends. It's just a little bit softer, probably. If you like al dente, you're not going to get the zucchini noodles al dente. They're not mushy, but they're not firm. So if you like your pasta soft, then the texture is almost identical. Not too soft, and it's not mushy at all. I think you just have to try it. Randy's saying he's going to try it. All right, good. We'll get a report on that. So I'm interested to know. I mean, I don't know if I do have another question about the grocery store. What about the nuts? I mean, are all nuts created equal? I mean, I'm not a huge almond fan, but they're the rich, and they're probably the healthiest nut. But there are occasions when I will have a portion of an ounce of peanuts or an ounce of cashews. I mean, what are your thoughts on nuts? Are they all created equal? And obviously, they're very high in calories. Not that we count calories, but they're high in calories and fat. And you could derail a whole day with too many nuts.
So again, you're talking about fat. It's your quality of fat. So also, let's just say I believe there one portion of almonds is 170 calories. Okay. So although you're eating 170 calories, you're actually only going to be consuming about 140 calories because you're going to burn 30 calories of that just to digest the food. So that's why you don't always look at calories. For the most part, I do know that almonds are your healthiest as far as just overall good for you. But for the most part, all nuts are good for you. Um, Walnuts and almonds happen to be the best. Walnuts are shaped they look like a brain, so it's kind of like that's what it feeds. I'd actually have to apologize about that. I actually have to do the research on the quality of nuts because I don't believe they are all created equal. No, I do not believe so.
I don't either. I think they're all roughly the same calories. I mean, peanuts are the same, 170, cashews
Yeah,
are
they're roughly
170.
the same like grams of fat content, I believe, therefore the amount of calories. But just overall health benefits as far as what they do for you, no, I don't believe they are.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Yeah, let's look into that. Um, okay, so then, all right, so now what? We talked about the grocery store. We talked about
So
the pork.
canned foods.
And
So when it comes to canned, although you're getting fresh vegetables and fruits, it's not the actual food that's in there. It's what is put in the can or the jar, whatever you want to call it, that is preserving it. So with frozen food, it's temperature that is preserving it. But with canned food or jarred food, it's what's presented. So what I recommend is if you're going to go the canned route, rinse off whatever you get. A lot of vegetables are just put in water, like green beans and stuff. They're typically just put in with water, but your fruits and stuff is going to be put in with a lot of sugar, a lot of sugar. So just rinse it. If you need to, drain the water and rinse it so that you can get some of whatever it's mixed with out of there. If you're going to go the canned route.
I never go the canned route. Well, rarely. I shouldn't say that. Well, I will do tuna. What about seafood? We didn't touch on that at all. What are your thoughts on seafood?
Fish, all kinds of fish and seafood. The more wild, the better. The more health benefits. So absolutely, definitely go there. I mentioned that in frozen because not everybody does fresh seafood, but typically it's easier to buy seafood frozen. So yes, either way, salmon, all your wild caught fish, anything like that is great.
Perfect. And what about
That
shellfish? That's the same.
I'm sorry.
And shellfish is the same. Do we have? I mean, I do care for fish, and I will have it fairly frequently. But there are certain types I won't have. I will no longer have tilapia, for instance.
Why is that?
Well, because I've read that because it's farm grazed and it's full of chemicals, so
Yeah.
I don't have tilapia. And they say that I've heard it actually classified as the garbage fish, so I stay
Oh,
away from that.
really?
But for a long time, I was eating it. I loved it, and
I loved it too.
and
Actually, when I was training to compete, I ate it every day. Every day, yeah.
I know. So maybe that's wrong, and maybe that's changed. So I
No, no,
almost
no. I think you're right about that. I think you're right.
And I also stay away from, and I don't know if this is true, but I also stay away from fish that comes from China or from Japan, and mostly because of um, remember when they had that huge tsunami there and their waters were contaminated from when the nuclear power plant, and they said that
Oh,
contained
yeah.
that nuke that, and I'm not gonna now, I can't think of it, but that residue from that disaster, they said would live in the water potentially for decades. So and the fish I know were contaminated for a very long time. They said even off the coast of Hawaii, they were catching fish that sometimes had those contaminants. I mean, and it's been a long time now, so maybe I'll have to read about that again as well. But you know how it is once you get something in your mind, I look at the bag and
I can't
I
imagine
don't put.
that going away easily, though. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that kind of contamination. So that's a very good food for thought. Very good. I
So
want to say overall, guys, I wouldn't pay so much attention to fat content necessarily when you're looking at foods because I really feel like fat has been over marketed ever since like the 70s. The culprit of all the bad ingredients is your sugars. That's what you want to look at. Is the bottom line is your sugars. How you determine what a food is, whether it's a carb or protein, is what does it have more of? So, how many grams of protein, how many grams of total carbs? Sugars is the most important because obviously we want fibers, but what is the total carbs? What does it have more of? That's what food is. Milk is one of the few foods that is an either or. It's unless you buy like the milk that I was telling you about that I buy that has a higher protein and half the sugar, but it's a little bit more expensive. That's considered a protein. But if you typically look at your regular milk carton, it's like 6 to 8 grams of protein and 8 to 10 grams of sugar. So it's a carb. Now,
all
milk
right,
is
so
a good. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was going to say I have some breaking news. I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is huge. You want to give a quick I'm trying to change the subject, but I've lost 20 pounds from going a while without soda and not overeating. Plus, I've recently backed off of a lot of fast food. So that is I don't think I've had any happier news in a very long time, and I am
High
so
five, Randy.
excited.
High five. That
That
is
is amazing.
awesome.
I'm so proud of you, Randy. I am so happy to hear that.
So I'm
I
interested to know, Randy, if you're experiencing yet your taste buds changing, are you eating healthier foods or are you just backing off of fast food? And the reason why I ask that, guys, is because it's really crazy. healthy food as well as unhealthy food is an acquired taste. It really is. So when you change the way you eat, your taste buds genuinely change. And so when you go back to those old things, although the memory of what it tastes like is so amazing in your head, it generally doesn't taste that good. Now he might not be at that point yet, but also once you get to 20 pounds and you're pretty proud of yourself, you also will form that or hopefully start to form that guilty conscience. And I'm not trying to say that I want anybody to rack themselves with guilt, but just to the point that you don't just down or eat whatever, you actually second guess it. You put more thought into it. That's good, Randy. That's awesome.
Yeah, we can. I am thrilled. If you could see me, I'd do a cartwheel right across this room. That's how happy I am. That is so exciting. And how do you feel, Randy? Tell us that. How do you feel emotionally, physically? How do your clothes feel? I mean, what's happening there? What are the emotional benefits? I know the physical benefits, but I'd love to hear about the emotional ones as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, and Randy, I hope you've taken some pictures. I never even thought to tell you that. So if you haven't done so, take some pictures now. Note how much you weighed so that we can have some photos to go through.
We would love that. We'll post them. Yeah, before and after. That's always great. I'm trying to get to the comments section so I can love all of these comments on my phone. So, and that's before you even had heard about the grocery store, Randy. You figured it out on your own. So that's even equally as impressive. That, all right. So he's still tired for lack of sleep, but he's doing a lot better emotionally. So that's great. That's great. Now, have you been exercising? That's something I'm interested in knowing as well. I mean, what has your movement been like? If you start to incorporate that, I mean, it will be, yeah, it'll definitely be a different perspective. I mean, that'll amp up your game. So, yeah. So I don't even know where to go from here. I'm so happy. What
That's
did you
awesome.
say?
That's
Yeah,
so
that's
awesome.
awesome.
So I take it you're not
Um,
missing the sodas anymore. I know we were struggling with that for a while.
Yeah, the sodas. I mean, and what are you drinking in its place? Are you still drinking? Yeah, the water drops. That'd be interesting to know. But
You know what's
so
interesting is that I was at my mom's the other day and I did try those. And I don't know what it is with flavored drinks. I've tried multiple different ones. And it's like the first container, which is usually a 32-ounce container. I don't know why I measure it that way, but it always tastes good. And then on out, everyone I make then on out, I don't know, it's too sweet or I can't get it. But I went to my mom's and she had some of those. And she usually just uses like the Kroger generic brand, but she actually had that brand.
the mayo.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, did you try it or you didn't care for it?
I had gotten the lemonade already, but like I said, first time I did it, I put too much in there. I don't because I've never really used sweeteners, so I don't know like ounces of water per drops. You know what I'm saying? I just squirted a bunch of it in there, so it was gross. It was so gross.
Yeah, you'd be like
So
one.
yeah,
And
I tried it one time.
and I don't care for the lemonade. I like lemonade, but I don't care for any of the versions of lemonade. I don't for
Maybe
whatever
that's what
reason.
it
I
is.
don't care
Maybe
for
it's
it.
just well, I don't know. The other brands of drops that I've tried haven't been lemonade, and like I said, they're good the first time, and then I don't know, they're just and it's weird though because I'm often like almost every single day, although I drink water every day, plain water, almost every single day, there's at least one point during the day where I am craving. Not that I'm not craving water, I'm just craving something with a taste. So if it's something I can add to the water, like I've got these I've told y'all about Baseo before, and they give these little V3 packs, which is with electrolytes and all that kind of stuff. So I'll use that. But it's just you just want some like a little change, just a little taste of change. Yeah.
So Randy's saying he doesn't miss soda at all, and he's still drinking water with and without the flavor, and he's acquiring a taste for water, water more now. So this is so exciting.
And lemonade gives you heartburn. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. Yeah, certain things give me heartburn now too. I mean, I hadn't had it for a long time, but I don't know. I don't know what it is, but amazing. This is amazing. So, all right, so we talked about foods and what we did the breathing, we did the water. Did we do water? I think we did that last time. Um,
Did we
so
start
we're
over? I
now
think we were supposed to start over last week, weren't we? Or no, wait a minute. We did. Did we start with breathe?
we definitely did the breathing. We
Oh, I
started
don't
with
think
that.
we did water. I don't think we did.
So maybe we'll talk a
Does
little bit
anybody
about that.
remember? Can y'all cue in to us? Because we're
I don't know. I don't
we
know who's
just
on
did
there.
breathing.
So we can do a brief, let's delve into water and then next week we can really get into what's the third step? Is that the nutrition or the movement or
Nutrition.
okay.
Mhm.
So the nutrition. So we're prefacing, this is a good segue, the grocery store episode, so that by next week people will have and actually, yeah, people have the nutrition. Yep.
Breathing. The water
Randy
was
said
supposed to
we
be today.
started. Yeah,
Yeah.
water was supposed to be today. And actually next week, Randy, what about this? Next week, I'm going to be traveling, so I'm not going to be on the show. Randy, why don't you come on and be the co-host? I think that would be amazing. I'll watch from the plane.
Oh, where are you going?
I'm going to Minneapolis for Girls Weekend, and
Oh,
I may meet Brandon out there, another one of our coast to coast admins and fans of this show.
what's
So
in
Randy, think about
Minneapolis?
that. It's just I have a cousin who lives there, so I'm going with my mother, my sisters, and another cousin to visit our cousin Matthew who lives there.
Oh,
So we once a year we usually take a trip somewhere, and we just said we were going to go down and visit him. And Brandon actually works in the casino. We said maybe we would pop over there and see what happens and get to meet him. But yeah, he's so that would be fun. That's going to be fun, but our schedules may not align because I don't know if they will, but I'm going to do my best.
and where are you located?
I'm in New York,
New York. Okay.
so I'm in New York, and then the next step is we got to get Randy out on the road because we'll have to maybe take a trip out to Oregon when yeah for the photo shoot.
Photo shoot. What photo shoot?
I'm saying when he's ready to go,
Oh,
we're going to
gotcha.
have
I
a
was like,
photo shoot.
is there something I don't know about?
And he's saying he depends how tired he is. He's cleaning his place. So I've been pushing myself today to stay awake. All right, well, next week, I'm going to challenge you to try to be Amber's co-host on the show. There's a lot he needs to do left before the photo shoot, but but all right, we have time. We have time. So let's talk about water. I mean, that's something that I have struggled with. There are times, and it's funny, there are times, it's like anything, it's like Randy, it's an acquired taste for me. And there are times when I can drink a gallon, and then there are times when I don't even want to drink 8 ounces. So, yeah, yeah, work in progress.
So water is it's not only like if we're talking about a car, we often can align ourselves or the analogy of a car. It's not only our gasoline, but it's the oil. It's what keeps everything lubricated. So not only does it remove it provides energy. Believe it or not, I know people don't get that, but until you have water as an acquired taste and you realize that it actually does refresh you and provide you energy, it is actually a source of energy, but it removes all the toxins. It's like the floating mechanism that everything stays in place. Does that make sense? Like it's not just that it removes all the toxins from every single cell in our body, every single one of them. But it's okay. I'm gonna give you another analogy. A plant does anybody here enjoy plant life? Like I love plant life. Plants are amazing in the regard that if you don't water them, they start to shrivel up, they droop down, but within a matter of an hour after giving it water, it will come back to life. So Shit, I totally forgot where I was going with that.
Well, we're talking about how water is really almost like the glue. It's the
Okay, so like if so a plant, it can't it's not going to bloom, the leaves aren't going to float up if it doesn't have water. Our cells are the same way. They're not going to operate as designed. It's like they shrivel up. It's kind of like a raisin. You know, instead of it being a grape, it shrivels up. It's not able to function. It's not blood's not able to flow through it. You know what I'm saying? It's not able to function. So it is our main power source. Like we desperately need it. And I get the argument all the time. Well, I drink coffee and coffee's made with water. I drink tea and it's made with water. I did that same thing. And I'm kidding. I'm not even kidding you. I've been a health nut for like 15 years. But even in the most last 3 years, I actually had like a 3-month period where all I drank was tea. And I'm like, but I'm getting plenty. You know what I'm saying? Like we can justify it to ourselves, but the caffeine in it is what is going to dehydrate us, as well as other things that are in the tea and coffee. So it's not. I learned to appreciate how bad our body needs water when I competed. So when I was training to compete, you drink typically at least a gallon, if not 2 gallons of water. So at least 128 ounces that you're used to surviving on. Now, I will say, guys, I'm not saying you need a gallon of water a day. I would recommend 3 liters. So 96 ounces.
Randy's saying he used that terminology. He used the phrase soda has water in it. So it's okay.
Yeah, I remember telling my doctor that, and she's a girlfriend of mine, and she knows I'm a personal trainer and nutritionist. She's like, "What the hell just came out of your mouth?" I'm
That's
like,
funny.
"Yeah, it's not one of my finer moments."
I want to talk about the plants for a second. Randy's saying, laugh out loud. I can't have a plant. I tend to kill them and not on purpose either. But this speaks to the power of water. I mean, there are many times in my office, especially during COVID, I was out of the office almost for really 16 months and a coworker would go in very sporadically and water my plants. But when I came back to the office, I mean, they were really detrimentally dry. Some were on the verge certainly looked dead. You know, one I cut down, I didn't even think it would come down, but really when I started watering them, they all came back to life and bloomed after being stagnant for over a year. So that really does speak to the power of water.
Yeah. So when I was competing, right 3 days before you have to water deplete. And the reason for the water depletion is so basically your skin and everything just kind of shrivels up around your muscles to give that more defined look. But it's the worst part of the whole training. Let me just tell you, it's the worst part. So you go from 128 ounces to approximately 8 to 12 ounces in a day. I have never been so lethargic, like just I will not lie that I'm sure there was a large degree that was mental. Of course, when anybody it's like when you go on a diet, when somebody tells you you can't have a certain type of food or a certain item of food, you instantly want it. So I'm sure it was some of that, but like literally like I was just slugging, like my legs were made of concrete, just slugging through. So it is an acquired taste, but once your body starts getting used to it and the cells and everything in your body starts being able to function the way it's supposed to function with the right water, and then you start giving it the right ingredients, like the right nutrients, and you'd be amazed at what taking a little bit of that water away will do. So it is paramount. It aside from breath, we can't go without water. We can go far longer without food than we can go without water.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I have read reports, and I always disagree with this. And some nutritionists have said, and there's a famous one, and I'm not going to remember. I know it might have been Dr. Ian or one of the nutritionists who said that you can get all the water that you need in the foods that you eat throughout the course of the day. But I do believe there's some validity to that. But at the same time, I believe you get a lot of water out of the foods that you drink, but I definitely feel a difference in the way that I feel and the way that I function when I drink water.
So yes and no, that person is correct. A lot of fresh foods do have a high water content. But the problem is that for every processed food that you eat, it's like a diuretic. Like it literally dehydrates you more. So you have to offset every fresh thing. You know what I'm saying? Every processed thing would double the fresh thing to be able to get. So in it, unfortunately, the American diet is just not that way. We don't even have the same diet that we had 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
That's true. Because we have so many processed foods.
Right. And I mean, that's
Not
actually
being
when
used.
it was around the 80s is when the bulk of processed foods was created. So that's back when it was no longer guaranteed that we had one person at home cooking foods. You know, the world started to speed up. That's when the ingredients of high fructose corn syrup and partially hydrogenated oils was created, which was just staying power, just to give food a shelf life, just staying power.
Yeah. I mean, are there any, and I'm asking this for, when we talk about, are there any convenience foods or processed foods in the grocery store that we would recommend at all? I mean, for instance, are there, you see in the organic aisle, there are different versions of macaroni and cheese. Annie's macaroni and cheese or Amy's. Those are two brands that are supposedly organic and natural, and they have some things that we would consider processed. Certainly the mac and cheese, obviously, real cheese isn't powdered. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, is there anything we can salvage if we're in a
So
crunch?
if you're going to be eating processed foods, then you just need to look at your top 3 categories, which is your carbs, protein, and fats. The very first thing you should do, regardless of whether it's processed or regular food, is how many grams of protein are you eating? That is your number one question. There should never be a meal in your diet that has all carbs. It is okay to have a meal with all protein, okay, but you never want an all carb meal. And unfortunately, most Americans' first and last meal of the day is typically all carbs. If you think about our breakfasts, and with the exception of eggs, you know what I'm saying? It's a primarily carb loaded diet. Breakfast is our most important meal. We need carbs for breakfast. I'm not saying in all, protein or what, we need carbs, but we need the slow kind of carbs. There was other thing. So obviously your cereal aisle, you guys, there is no such thing as healthy code cereal. It's just literally impossible. Let me rephrase that. I have a client, who happens to be a girlfriend of mine, and she found some cereal called Kashi, I believe.
I like that one, Kashi Go Lean Crunch. And really, it became famous when Dr. Oz really touted it. And it does. I think it has about 13 grams of protein per serving. So, and it's very dense and it does not get soggy. That's why I like it. So I will have Kashi Go Lean Crunch in periods of time. Because and it's tasty, but it's definitely, yeah, it's been touted as the healthiest cereal out there.
But basically, you can look this up. There's so many articles about how, the number one food that we cram in our kids' mouths before they go to school, and we expect them to sit in a chair quietly and listen for 8 hours, is nothing but dessert. We feed them dessert first. So, your hotter cereals, your oatmeals. Now, when it comes to oatmeal,
Jason's saying hello to us. Hi, Jay.
Hey, Jason. So for oatmeal, although it's much more convenient to buy those little packets that, you just add a cup of water or whatever, throw it in for a minute. You don't want that oatmeal. You want to get the one that's in the actual container that says old-fashioned oats or long grain oats. The reason is because of how it affects you. It's not the actual sugar content on the label. It's how it affects your internal sugar levels. So the sugar packets are going to spike your internal sugar levels. The old fashioned is going to work like a complex carb, and it's just going to slowly raise your sugar levels.
So Randy
Um,
has a great question, a great comment, and he's saying all sports when he played in school, they believed in carb loading. And actually, my sons do that now. They both run cross. Two of my sons run cross country, and every night before a meet, they'll tell me that they have to have pasta, and I always say, well, I don't know if you necessarily need that. I do give it to them because my son, my middle son, yeah, he's very difficult to sway. I will say that he's
well,
very hard-headed, stubborn, and he doesn't care for the wheat pasta. And I do try to. I always incorporate some protein in it. But yeah, I think that, and I remember some of my friends who were on the football team, and they would tell them if they wanted to gain any weight that they should have, and this is when they went to college. One of my close friends went to William and Mary, and they told him to eat a half a cake every night before he went to bed. That was the guidance of the football trainers. So yeah, so I
well,
think that
carb
that
loading
sets up
isn't just eating like well, carb loading isn't just about eating like unhealthy carbs. So carb loading is a legit thing. Unless you are either playing a sport or competing in some either sport or fitness show, there's really no need to do carb loading with any kind of nutritional plan. Okay. It's only needed when carb loading is one of those either endurance or fine tuning things. So by endurance, I mean such as your son's running. They're getting ready to do an endurance race. They need the abundance of carbs that they can store in their body. Fine tuning means you're typically eating a low amount of carbs. So instead of doing that consistently and allowing your body to plateau, every 5 to 7 days, you carb load, or 3 to 5 days, you carb load one day. So it shocks your body up. So when you go back down to lower carbs, your body will dramatically go back into ketosis where you're burning fat. So yes, carb loading is a legit thing, but unless you're playing a sport wherein you will typically have a coach or a mentor of some sort, or you're competing in something where again, I hope you have a coach or a mentor, then it's unnecessary. But yes, it's legit.
So Adam, I believe this is Adam. He's saying he eats too much, then he runs, then he eats some more. That's a great strategy. And I can't, if I ate too much, there's no way I could run. So I might run, then eat too much, but I can never do the same. I mean, when I feel heavier, it's really tough to get myself moving on the treadmill. And Randy is asking, does carb loading help when going to a gym?
No,
I think it
no.
depends what you're doing, right? I mean, unless you're running on the treadmill or something in that respect, but just lifting weights, I think, yeah,
Carb
I
loading is
thought
not,
protein.
you're not going to feel carb loading in the regards of a burst of energy. Carb loading is all about the macros in your body as far as burning energy. So no, it's unless you're doing something intense, if you're training at the gym for something intense, but carb loading isn't for something that like an hour workout at the gym. It's not something like that. I do
So we're getting that.
recommend carbs before and after, but not a carb loading day. So when it's a carb loading, let's say you're typically eating 100 grams of carbs a day. In a carb loading, you would double that. Maybe not even double it. Maybe so instead of 100, you'd eat 150. Now, 100 grams of carbs, by the way, guys, is a lot of freaking carbs. You should not be eating that much. It's a large number. So I shouldn't even use that, but that's a lot of carbs. So, and again, it's something you only do typically every 5 to 7 days, sometimes every 3, just depends on what you're actually doing.
All right, so we're at our last 5 minutes. So how do we want to close it out? What are your thoughts? What are we going to game up for next week? And there is a chance we're not going to be on next week. It sounds like Randy's not a definite, so we may be on hiatus and then follow up in the following week, or maybe we can do. Yeah, my schedule is probably going to be tight when I come back, but so I think we're probably going to be back in 2 weeks, and we'll get. We talked a lot about nutrition. Our nutrients, and so I'll let Amber come up with the game plan. But what do you think? What are you thinking for next week? Have we covered all about nutrition in tonight, or this is just a snapshot?
Let me think about it. Let me think about it because we
Okay.
really just kind of covered the grocery, but you're right. We did kind of cover. I don't, let me think about it.
And I think that the video was a great idea. I'd like to incorporate more things like that in. And I'm curious to know if the viewers could hear the video or if it's just you couldn't hear it, Amber. I could hear it, obviously, but I'm gonna go back and watch the tape.
I do remember, and we can ask Chris about this, but I remember that happening actually in OPP one time. And it's something about when you go to screen share, you've got to make sure you share the. So we'll talk about that. Yeah.
And Randy says he wants to see the video, so I'm going to send you the link. But yeah, I think that
Can we
things like
post
that
that
are
in the
beneficial.
Facebook group?
I will. I'll put it up. I'll put it up there. All right, so perfect. So thank you, Amber. I'm so glad we're back. We're back in action, ready to go. I've been doing pretty well myself, so I'm feeling invigorated and ready to go. And now that Randy's lost 12 pounds, he's my accountability partner. I can't let him down.
20, not 12, 20.
Oh yeah, 20, right. That's true. I misspoke. So all right, I gotta catch up to you, Randy. You're doing it without me. You didn't even need me. That's the best part of the story.
Oh, I think it's all about community.
I agree. So thank you, Amber, for being here, and we'll see you in maybe 2 weeks, maybe next week, and we'll be in the Facebook group either way. And of course, I always have to thank my main man, Chris. So thank you, Chris, for everything behind the scenes, and we'll see you soon.